Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Joel Elston here, sitting in for Cindy Chavez. Today is Wednesday, December 27th, 2017. Just a few more days left of 2017, and we have to deal with a new year. Oh, no. It's a good thing I don't write checks anymore, Joel. I'd be in real trouble.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. Well, I'll still write a few, and I promise you, I'm anticipating already. I'll do it at least 5 times. So I'm excited about that.
Well, good. It's nice to have something to look forward to. That's what I say. And hopefully,
exactly. And I laugh every time I do it.
And hopefully everybody's looking forward to their daily dose of happy, because that's what we do every Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Eastern. And this is our Wednesday daily dose. Joel, this has been a rather banner Christmas for you, because you got to have your first Christmas with your newly constituted family. That's got to be exciting.
It's very exciting. This was my son Justin. As many of you know, I adopted him officially earlier in December, and this was our first official Christmas together. Even though he was with me in foster care last year, this was his first official as an Elston, so to speak, year. And it was just an amazing time to be in a position to see Christmas again. This is my really my third go around as a parent, as a dad. I see it a lot differently now. And the fact that I was able to provide for him pretty much, probably a little too much, if anything, But being able to witness that and have such an abundance in my life to share with him at this time of year is probably the greatest gift I've ever received, and it's been amazing. It just fits with how this year has been, and I'm really excited about the new year coming. I'm excited about what's left in this year. I don't want to get past what's left in this year. A few days left.
I saw that some of the posts you put in your Facebook timeline, pictures you took during the gift opening on Christmas, and he was obviously a really happy kid.
Yes, that was quite a bit, and it's funny how you get feedback from people, and again, anytime I post something about him, I get just hundreds of likes and comments, but there's always one or two people that can put a negative spin on anything.
Oh, of course.
And I had a couple of private messages from people suggesting that I overdid it or I was showing off.
Oh dear.
They are no longer a part of my Facebook world, but it was it's interesting. No matter how positive something can be, the filter. I always filter everything for the positive. I love to see people get new stuff. I love to see people become successful. I don't ever judge my situation by someone else's. I'm always happy for someone else, and I think that invites more of the same. But yet there are those people that view it the other way, and it was just an interesting spin. Out of the probably 300 likes and positive comments, 2 people found a negative in those posts.
Well, they obviously did not get the Facebook memo, which states quite clearly that people like Facebook because they get to share photos about their families and about things like Christmas. So I don't know. Maybe we need to recirculate the memo or something, because they just obviously didn't get it.
Well, it's funny you said that. Because I believe that much like we do our show here, the point of Facebook for me is positive. I occasionally will slip in the irreverent post about something and usually delete that, but it's never negative. It truly is never negative. But I'm amazed at the people that somehow use that format, which I think is such an amazing format to share. I look at, as I mentioned before, the adoption we had earlier in the month, Walt, and mainly through Facebook, to be honest with you, we had 25 people show up for our celebration, our hearing of adoption.
Yeah.
And that was mainly through Facebook. People shared it. We had cards. I have a friend from Harvard University that sent my son a sweatshirt from there, and then one from Yale saw that happen. They sent sweatshirts, and then
of course
Columbia
they
sent
had
sweatshirts. Just amazing stuff taking place. So I look at social media like anything else in life. It's an incredible conduit of positive, but yet you still have, as in life, you still have that other side out there looming. And I just am amazed that just how much I find it supporting. I don't find it as negative as most people, but I don't look at folks who are posting negative stuff. I don't look at the political posts. And I have friends that, that they're still friends, but they cannot help but comment politically every day. Well, they're still my friends. They're not on my Facebook feed. I don't see them daily on that.
Right. And that's something a lot of people don't realize. I mean, if you're trying to make your life more positive, Facebook's actually a pretty good way to do it if you take advantage of the built-in tools, because there's that built-in tool. There are a couple of them, actually. One of them, it's that little down-pointing arrow in the top right corner of a post, and if you click it, it has things like do not follow. You can unfollow somebody without ending being friends. Right. They built in this capability a few years ago where you could still remain friends, but you don't follow them anymore, which means you don't see all that stuff anymore coming through your feed. And if you do that kind of thing, you don't even have to always do the unfollow. There's also another one that says something to the effect of, I don't like this kind of post. And you do that enough times with different kinds of posts, and Facebook learns from it. They say, okay, we're not going to send you those kinds of posts anymore. So after a while, it doesn't take very long, about a week or two, all of a sudden, all your Facebook feed has been cleaned up of all the junk you don't want to see anymore. I mean, it's a great tool because of that.
It really is, and at this time of year, we're focused on as we should be on the giving state. No matter if you're a Christian or not a Christian, many of my Jewish friends have celebrated Christmas now for several years, and they're not celebrating a religion. They're celebrating the concept of the time of year, and I love that. I have people that are devout atheist friends who celebrate Christmas as a concept. And I'm glad that people can find that, no matter if you're the full-blown, this is Jesus' birthday, or the other side of it, don't believe in Jesus, but yet I do believe in the spirit of the season. That's such a positive to me. It's this time of year, we focus on what we get. And one of my speaking of Facebook, my Facebook post this year is, Justin said to me, we have the tree up, and at one point he had like 18 presents wrapped under the tree, and I had none. And his statement to me was, you don't have anything under the tree. Does that make you sad? And I said, no, the fact that I can put all of this under the tree makes me exceptionally happy. And he jokingly said, well, you got the wrong end of the deal, or something along those lines. But it was, but I let him believe he's right for right now. Mm-hmm. But my gift this year was putting those gifts under the tree. It isn't what I don't have a thing. If you asked me right now, Walt, you would fulfill you would just send me whatever I wanted. I could not come up with a thing to ask you to send. I can't. I have nothing I want. I have every single thing I want. And if I want it during the year, I don't wait for Christmas. I go get it. So, it's when you live in that abundance feeling, it's just such a great way to feel. Then I'm able to help other people. There's not that I do this for, there's other people that I've been able to help this Christmas, families that are in need. And, I don't get into what they were, but being in that mindset is my greatest gift this year. That's the excitement of my life. And I'm in a point in my life where I don't look for what I'm getting. I truly cannot have that. This is a joke of one of my friends that stopped by the other day. He stopped by to bring some gifts, and he looked in my closet where I keep all more of my pantry. And he laughingly, I may have mentioned this in the show before, he said, "Why do you have an extra Vitamix blender?" And I said, "Well, because that one may break sometime." Well, these things, first of all, these are very expensive blenders that last forever. But I have a backup. I mean, I have so much that I want. I have a backup to most things I have, and he's laughing. He goes, "You're the only person I know that has a backup $500 blender." And I said, "Well, it's just the way it goes. I didn't intentionally do that. It's just how it ended up." And so with that abundance that we're talking about, what we got at Christmas or when you ask yourself, what did I get at Christmas, which is sort of the topic of our show today, what did I get for Christmas? When it takes a new meaning for you, I just totally, what was I able to give this Christmas is what I got this Christmas. If that makes any sense, Walt, that's
it does.
There, but
it makes a lot of sense. And in fact, the thing that occurs to me is, well, there are a couple things. First of all, I learned something new about Christmas this year, something I did not know. Did you know that there is at least one sect of Christianity that does not celebrate Christmas?
I didn't know that. That doesn't shock me, but I didn't know that.
It surprised me, I have to say. Jehovah's Witnesses do not celebrate the traditional Christian holidays. And the reason they won't do it,
wow.
I looked it up, the reason they won't do it is because they believe that, well, historically it's true, the Christian Christmas as it's celebrated today was created in part as a way to lure pagans over. And so there's a paganistic aspect to it that the Jehovah's Witnesses don't like. So they won't celebrate Christmas because of the paganistic aspect of it. Which is really fascinating.
Well, yeah, it really is, but that's such a great example of how everybody who not claims, but everybody that the worship or the pursuit of sort of a similar type thing has different interpretations of it, and that's the beauty of learning to sort of live in the law of attraction. Is I don't get stuck on stuff like that. There was a time when I could debate those topics.
Yeah. But, me too.
Right now, I'm at a point right now. Hey, if that's where you're going with it, I have no problem with that. I find it. What I love about one thing we're starting to do, and we'll implement it fully. Next year. We did a little bit, but next year we're going to celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas together. As just as a lot of my Jewish friends are celebrating Christmas, I want to incorporate Hanukkah.
Okay.
Not because I'm turning Jewish, but within respect to that religion and all the support that I feel. I have many Jewish friends who are amazing people who do great things. So I think that's a real great way to honor that belief system as well.
Oh yeah, you don't have to go join a temple just because you want to be honoring of the belief system. I mean, it's not like it's a requirement as far as I know. So why not? Why not be respectful of it?
And I don't even really understand it, other than you light some good candles and you get several gifts, and that's sort of it. Even if that's just the level of interpretation that we're going to use, that's what we're going to use. So it's been amazing from my perspective this year that. Within this year, if you look back, and I don't know, I was not active in the show during this time, but over this year I've had a great year. But also I lost my mother during this year.
Mm.
She died unexpectedly in April. Incredible health. Everything was wonderful. I mean, she literally planted a tree, a big palm tree, the day before she died.
Wow! So
there was no indication that she was unhealthy in any form or fashion. And while this Christmas came along, we tend, and as you know, also, Walt, I lost my son TJ a few years ago.
Right.
And so I find it amazing that what the law of attraction brought to me, and as you know, with my son TJ and also with my mom, I celebrate the joy of them and what they brought to my life.
Yes.
And at Christmas, I do that same thing. So they're incorporated in our celebration as well. But I find it interesting with I could focus at Christmas on the loss of my mom and my son, or I can focus on Christmas of the joy of my mom and my son. And so when I'm viewing this year, I'm looking at this has been an incredible year. It's such an incredible year on multiple levels. And I lost my mom. And that's when you know you're sort of in that zone with the law of attraction, that you can sustain a loss like that, but yet incorporate it into it doesn't take away. Me calling this an incredible year doesn't minimize the loss of my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But it does show my ability, or what the law of attraction, it sounds arrogant when I say my ability, but what the law of attraction has taught me, it does show me that, yes, we here we are. Let's move forward. Let's look at this context in the year. The beauty of this is I was able to, this summer, I took my son Justin before he was legally adopted, but he was still with me in foster care. We went and spent quite a bit of time with my mom. He got to hang out with my mom. And they had a really good time. So before she passed, and we obviously didn't know that was coming,
right.
She was able to spend time with Justin, and he has a wonderful memory of her. And one thing that's amazing about my mom, she never aged. I mean, it was very surreal. Once she hit about 50, she quit aging. And,
wow.
She passed away looking incredibly young, to the point that some of her friends asked me if I was her brother at her funeral.
Oh, dear.
It's which I found sort of humorous on some level.
Right.
But she never aged, so she died a beautiful lady. My son will always remember her as this very vibrant young woman who passed away. So within all of this, we are in charge of that perspective for the year, Walt. And this has been such a blessing to be able to live the year we've lived, and the good, the bad, and the ugly, all have made this year. And I celebrate this year. And that's what this Christmas brought. So it's been exciting for me.
It's fantastic that you have so much going on that you recognize that abundance is more than just everything going right. And of course you've recognized that throughout most of your adult life, but there are a lot of people who don't realize that. And I think it's a great message that you're giving out by saying that. The fact is that there's a song that was, I believe, derived from a Bible verse. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And that is a good description of what happens in life. Stuff happens in life. People die.
Right.
It's just part of what happens, So if you decide that you're going to get all bent out of shape about the fact that happens, then you're going to make a really rough go of it for yourself. But if you're in an abundant place, if you're feeling good about most of what's going on, and the continuation of the stuff that keeps going on that's so good, when events like that happen, yeah, sure, they're very sad. They can really take it out of you, but you recover so much more quickly, which is exactly what the loved ones want you to do anyway. I mean, I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you. When I finally pass on, I don't want people to just fall apart. I want them to keep on going.
Oh my goodness. Oh no. And that's exactly, my mindset with this is why and I get it, because the focus for a lot of us has always been, what are we, what am I focusing on? What is driving my day? Do I view today as positive or negative? When I get pulled over by the police and get a ticket, or something along those lines. Okay, it was a horrible day because that happened. But what you tend to focus on is what your day is. No matter what happens. I have a friend that he told this story that he got a call, he got a text that all it said was, your mom was in a horrible accident. You need to get to the hospital. And he oh my God, who is this? Who is this? And no answer. So he's calling everybody and really, really desperate to figure out. He had lost this project earlier, and he had a big sale that he was working on that if his company would have had it, it would have been a really big deal. So he was focused on that. Then he got this message about his mom. And so he spent the next 30 minutes trying to figure out what hospital she was in. And he was desperate for all that. Then he got another text. I am so sorry. I dialed the wrong number. Please, I hope this didn't cause you undue stress.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, his day went from, oh my gosh, I lost this project, to I am so grateful that my mom is okay.
Mm.
And all of that happened. It totally changed it. The perspective of his day changed instantly when a larger event was shared or viewed. And that's the piece that you being in charge, you, Walt, me, Joel, our audience, you are in charge of your happiness. That is it. There's a wonderful Facebook post going around that it talks about free yourself from depression by applying 10 basic principles. And the first one is accept responsibility that you must change your life. The law of attraction, a lot of people think that is this very soft, woo-woo, isn't that? No, the law of attraction, again, is emotionless. It is You are in charge of your happiness. You are in charge of inviting wealth. You're in charge of your illness. And that message gets very rough for people to swallow at times.
Mm-hmm.
And, within this 10-step process that they're talking about, you and I talk about this all the time. And I'm not going to go through them all, but one of them says, get rid of your toxic outlets and replace them with positives. Growing up, people use television, pornography, alcohol, drugs, sex, social media, all that stuff and it tends to be a negative type thing. When you replace that with positive, that's the gift you can give yourself. If we give ourselves, nobody really will understand this, but if you were to give yourself the gift of replacing toxic outlets for the new year or for Christmas, if you give yourself that gift, remove yourself from the stuff that is negative. What the news is telling you how bad things are. Pornography, and people say, okay, that's a minimal thing. It puts unrealistic expectations into your life. It's not a positive outlet. Junk food. Nobody, and Lord knows I have eaten some junk food in the last couple of days. But
I think we all have.
in the big scheme of that, I don't do that every day. That's not in my life. It's in my life apparently around Christmas and Halloween is where it seems to be.
Right.
But you have all of it. Give yourself the gift of replacement with the stuff that it isn't a positive when you're doing these things that aren't serving you. And that's the happy thought for me today is you're in charge. We are in charge of all of this. And that is the greatest power we've been given. And most people think they are victims of these things and they don't have a choice. And that I use that in my dealing with addiction for so long. And as I evolve in my addiction, you and I have a great, similar belief on 12-step programming or what have you. It tends to program the negative stuff into your brain, which becomes a repetitive cycle where when you look at our thought patterns, they can be addictive in nature. If that's the case, put positive thought patterns in place. Become addicted to the positive side, for lack of a better term. Make that your default way of thinking. And that changes everything. That changes your perspective. You really believe your life's different. Then the law of attraction has no option but to fill that void.
Yeah.
I got a surprise. One of the things that the great state of Virginia does is, I forget about this every year, is they send you bills, a tax bill in your car every year. A lot of states I lived in, you only pay one tax at the beginning. Virginia, you get to pay it every year, forever. And so I always have nicer, newer cars. So I got this random $1,000 tax bill. And the initial response of that, I've just spent a lot of money the last few months, was, oh my God, an unexpected $1,000 tax bill. Then I turned it to immediately. This is where my conditioning worked. I am so grateful that I can send the money out immediately without waiting, without worrying about it, without a change in my, and I got in that, and I went, and I normally pay bills online, but this one is one I like to pay my mortgage and taxes where I have a hard copy of the check and I can attach them to them. And this is one bill that I pay by check. And I got it in the mail that I believe it was, one day last week. That same day, I wrote a check, turned it around, and got it back in the mail to them. It's not due to February, but I got it back to them. And I can imagine when the tax people open the bill, they're probably thinking, I'm really crazy because I wrote thank you on the bill and send it back to them. They're probably going, what is this man talking about? I had so much gratitude. There was a time when an unexpected $1,000 tax bill could send me into a deep depression. And now it's just, I send $1,000 tax check. Mm-hmm. It's a nice place to be in, Walt. Again, I'm not saying it with arrogance. I'm saying it with gratitude.
Yeah.
That there was, as I said before, there was a time when every little bit, any unexpected expense like that could just send me in a spiral feeling of lack. I'm, all this work and I'm losing all that. It's just, now I would much rather not be paying $1,000 tax bill. I'm not saying I like that. I'm saying I have the ability to do it.
Right.
And that's a different mindset. And that's how the law of attraction works. Learning to turn stuff like that around. And I will randomly predict, I'll just say this, I'm going to have some windfall of some amount come in, exceeding that at some point soon that I'm not expecting, because that's how it always works for me.
By the way, I also want to take a moment to invite anyone who happens to be listening to the live broadcast. 99.9% of our listeners listen to the recorded podcast after the fact. But if you're listening on Wednesday, December 27th, currently 8:25 a.m. Eastern Time, and you wanted to share your own Christmas story, we'd love to hear from you. The phone number here is 860-264-5432, 860-264-5432. We'd love to hear excuse me, we'd love to hear you. We'd love to hear any stories that you'd like to share that kind of illustrate the point we're talking about. Because, Joel, I think the point you made that essentially none of this is external, it's all internal, is really the best part of it all.
Yes.
Because it's the internality of it, the fact that we're the ones who generate the feelings about it, the reactions about it, the way we're going to deal with it. We do all that internally. That's the power. Because when when you understand that and when you apply that, ultimately, even something like drug abuse becomes your choice of how you're going to view it internally. I'm not saying that people should go out and become drug addicts, but literally, it is conceivably possible for someone to take drugs without it beating them up, without it destroying them. Again, I'm not saying they should do that at all. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying it's their reactions, not just to the drugs, but to the reason they're taking it, that leads them into the addictive spiral. They can change that spiral anytime they want to, and the rest of us can just the same way, just because it's all internal. It's an inside job, as the old cliche goes. So, I mean, that's the best part, I think, of the story you were telling.
You're absolutely right. Well, the majority of people that drink alcohol, the vast majority of people that drink alcohol, do so safely. They drink it in moderation. They probably have an occasional little too much and say, okay, I can regulate that better next time. While I have addictive issues, in being a recovering compulsive gambler, I certainly have had my day back in my younger day that I learned, 2 quarts of tequila is just about a quart and a half more than I need. I learned that. And the last time that I had that has been many years ago, and I've never touched tequila again. So I'm moderated with that lesson that too much tequila, or really for me now, any amount of tequila is too much tequila. So I learned that, moderated that. But yet in the other addictive behavior of mine, I've identified for me and for the majority of people, most addiction starts from a place of lack. You lack confidence, so you drink. You lack the ability to socialize or think you can socialize, and you use a social lubricant like alcohol. And then oftentimes that becomes not effective, and you then will switch to something else. What you're saying is exactly right. Also, the people that are addicted to drugs, or especially heroin or benzos or certain things, there does come a physical reliance on that exceeds the internal. There is a mechanism for some people where they do need medical intervention to step away from the physically addicting side. If I have a gentleman the other day. Most people don't get this. He's a severe alcoholic, been drinking probably a quart of vodka a day every day for a while, and he wants to stop. And his initial reaction was, I want to stop and then go to treatment. And as anyone who works in the field would said, do not stop cold turkey. When you're at that level of alcohol, when you stop cold turkey, the body is so dependent on it, you can have a seizure and die.
Yeah.
So there's a medical detox for that. And we're not doing an addiction show, but I am just trying to point out it is within us, but sometimes the psychological side of addiction is within us to fix, certainly. But there becomes a physical for certain drugs like benzodiazepines, which like Xanax, and alcohol. Those two things you cannot just abruptly quit, and because they have a physical reliance. And as I said before, most addictions started with a lack of something. When the most kids that I know that smoke pot, it isn't that they're being rebellious and they're smoking pot. is, most of them have ADHD or social anxiety, so they take a hit of pot like, wow, I feel better. Well, the key is whatever that drug is doing to your brain, you can do that internally yourself when you figure out how to do it. But
Yes.
it's so much easier to smoke a joint is what it seems like in the beginning. But we are in charge of that. We're in charge of our happiness just like we're in charge of our anxiety. And this is probably where I want to, these are my opinions. It's not a medical diagnosis. And I will always say the majority because I never like to make it an always case. But the vast majority of what is referred to as depression today is not true depression, or it's certainly a depression that could be changed with no intervention from pharmaceuticals. It can be changed by a lifestyle change and changed relatively quickly. I cured my depression without medication, and I had severe depression for many years. That is something that can be done, and that's, I think, where the law of attraction has its most power when you realize that.
I agree with you completely, and it's certainly true. There are certain cases, very severe cases of various forms of substance abuse that you need to have the medical intervention. Trying to do it yourself is not the smart thing to do. So I totally want to echo that. The other thing too is the comments you were talking about, the comments you were making about how you yourself, and you say this all the time, of course, you yourself are a recovering gambling addict. I always laugh at that internally when I hear you say that, because you haven't gambled in decades. It's ridiculous how long it's been. And it makes me ask myself, at what point do you get to say, I am now recovered? And I know in the 12-step industry, that's not allowed, but it's like, at some point you should be able to say, I'm recovered, I'm done.
Right. Well, it's one of those things that in reality, and this turns the addiction treatment world on. It just turns them in a very negative way when I say this. If I keep doing what I'm doing in my life right now, I'll never gamble again. First of all, they hate that statement. You can never say never. Well, and the caveat is if I keep doing what I'm doing, but I also aware I have the propensity that if I stop the positives, if I don't do this side of it, I do have the potential of going back, whether it's gambling. I don't know if that's what I would go back to, but I could easily get into another destructive thought pattern that could be, So when I say I'm a recovering compulsive gambler, I can clearly say I am a recovered compulsive gambler. I do not anticipate ever gambling again. Again, because of the stuff that I've done in my life, it does make a big difference in where I'm at. But it's not said with an arrogance, and I don't, when somebody who's their first year, your first week clean from alcohol, anybody that says I'll never drink again is pretty much destined to drink again when you believe it that strongly. But after a period of time, I don't believe that, I don't know when it is, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, when the brain is the same. My brain today is not the same brain that practiced my addiction. It's not. It's a different brain entirely. It both in many ways, the same brain cells don't exist. I don't have a brain cell in my body or a cell in my body that existed when I was gambling, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely,
it's all
it
been
does.
replaced.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things that medical science teaches us, and it's phenomenally wonderful to know that, because it means we're constantly rejuvenating, which is the best part of all. The other thing that occurred to me too while you were saying that, and I buy into what you're saying totally. The thing that occurred to me is that literally, if we take that premise that you laid out there and apply it to the entire population is in recovery of addiction to negativity.
Yes, that's that is the answer to me. One of the things, it's funny you say that. Well, in my practice, because I started when I started my practice and actually started in the field, I obviously was working with addiction. And one of the most amazing things that I have come to the conclusion, no matter what people bring to me, there's an addiction to a thought pattern that is underlying everything. And that's addiction to negativity is probably our biggest problem in the world today. In anticipation of the negative, and again, we go back, I don't like to keep beating up the news media. They're doing what they do. It's our choice to watch or not. But they literally call what you're watching on TV. They call it programming.
Yes.
And they are programming your brain to what your reality is, what you see on TV. There is a study that is mentioned, I believe it's Dr. Joe DiPenzia that mentions this. There was they did a study, and they somehow measured brain reaction to pain. And they hooked up the brain to stimulate, and they basically put a pretty high level of pain. They whacked some guy's leg with a stick pretty hard. Not enough to break it, but enough to give some pain. Well, they show the area of the brain where it lit up. Then they had other people watch a video of someone skiing, and it was a horrific skiing accident where you literally saw the leg snap in half. The brain lit up as if the pain happened to them.
Yeah, I can feel the light go on in my head just now.
Exactly. And so one of the things, the great news about that, because I'd never like to leave those stories. The great story, this skier had pins in her leg, came back and won some kind of a medal afterwards, and great ending there. But that's not relevant to the story, but I'd never like to leave that hanging.
I'm glad you do, though. That's good.
Yeah. But within that, you have, so witnessing events, you think that's your reality. If you watch the news, you really believe that that's our world.
Yes.
And it's not. Our world is not what you see on TV. It is, out of all the millions of things that are happening around our country, they come up with a handful to report on the news. So and the negative sells better. It talks about, this is not a popular topic, and anybody that lost loved ones during hurricanes or whatever, I don't mean to minimize that, but there's been cities in Florida that were very stagnant in their growth, and a hurricane wiped them out, and the rebuilding process rejuvenated the city. A lot of money came into the city. Mm-hmm. From, as you said, there are seasons. The tree, I posted this beautiful picture of a tree the other day that it's probably been a month now, but it turned bright red. It was fall. It just was almost looked like it was on fire, and it probably only looked like that way for one day. But I happened to see it. I pulled off the side of the road and I took a picture of it. It was beautiful, Walt. Mm. That tree today is barren and empty. Mm-hmm. And that tree in about 3 or 4 months is going to have new green coming out in it, new color. It'll be amazing.
Yes.
All of that's part of the season. We're going to, my physical body it feels great. I feel better. I'm incredibly healthy. I have all this stuff going for me. But more than likely, I still don't have a lot of evidence to this, but more than likely, I'm not going to physically be here forever, but my energy, you cannot kill energy. You can't.
It's true. It's very true. You can't kill it. You can try, but it doesn't work. The fact is that energy is forever, and it's the reason why we are eternal beings. I mean, it's really very good news. The good news is that even when we're done with this life, we just keep going, and it's not like we're bodiless forever. I mean, we could easily, if we wanted to, just go into another body and start all over again and just keep doing the cycle. Or we can not. Or we can move on to some other plane that you and I can't even fathom because we're not on that other plane. All kinds of possibilities. But the one thing that we know for sure is that it doesn't end.
I don't know all the details of the other side, but I do know that I just imagine with my personality type, and for those that believe this way or understand it, this is what I believe. I believe when you pass away, the physical pass away, your energy goes to that next level. Some people call it heaven. Some people just call it another spiritual plane, whatever you call that. It goes there. And I believe you have the opportunity to come back and do it again. Or you may wait a while and do it again. And you have different experiences you get to choose. Now, I imagine my personality type probably wakes up on the other side, jumps right back in. Let's do it again. I imagine that's what's happening. And, it's like, I probably have done that. They probably just rolled their eyes. I'm probably there for about 8 seconds and say, let's just do this again. And that's what it feels like I would be doing. with the energy that I feel like I have. And maybe the last time I didn't, maybe I don't know all the answers, but within that energy will go on forever. That's when I always say when I talk about TJ and my mom, their energy is there.
Oh yeah.
It's there. It's out there. It's,
and it's here.
It will be there. And I'll experience that energy again.
Oh yeah, it's here too. It's inside us.
Absolutely.
There are some ways that you could say that outside and inside are really arbitrary things that don't have any meaning, that it's all part of the same continuum. And that, source energy is the substance of that continuum.
Yes. And that's the beauty of all of this. If you live with the concept that you're here for 72.5 years and then you die.
72.5.
Yeah. I've read that was an average somewhere. I don't know. But let's take that as face value. That's an average. And that doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, okay, well, but if you understand that you're experiencing this for however long you're experiencing and you have the opportunity to do it again, and it's just part of the, that's what I tangibly feel is what's happening. And like I said, I don't know all the details. I don't know all the rules. I don't know if there are any rules. I have no idea. But I do know that there is more to this energy than what I'm living now. And when I change to this law, the beauty, the great news of the day, our concept of positive news during the day, the happiness portion, what makes me happy every day is I know I'm in charge of my own happy. And that alone is all I need to operate on.
Mm-hmm.
And you get up and when I have those moments of, like I said, the $1,000 tax bill, when I have that moment, I stop for a second and just turn it to another side, and it doesn't ever affect me. I'm not kidding that there were times in my life that if I'd have got another $1,000 tax bill, and I'm not saying this in a demeaning way or a flippant way, but I'd have considered killing myself over it. It's like, I can't imagine how am I going to deal with this? And in today's world, and it's not because I'm just everything's great, don't worry. It's because I've made that. That's what I believe my life is now, Walt. And what's going to happen to us today is, it is really out of our control. How we respond to what happens to us today is our incredible power.
Right.
So, I've angered several friends over the years. Did one recently, didn't mean to. And I got to learn to not do this, Walt, because they'll get there, but they can't see it the same day. I got another call from a buddy that got laid off right before Christmas. And I said, congratulations.
Yeah, that's probably not the best timed comment.
Yeah, I got to stop doing that because he did not see it the way I saw it at that moment. But after, he was pretty angry, and we didn't talk long at that moment. But I called him a couple of days later. I said, when I said that, I'm sorry that you lost that. I said, but you have told. I reminded him. I said, you've been complaining about this job now for 6 months. You don't like it. Let's look at getting you moved forward. Let's look at that next one. New year, new life. He got on board with that, and he's going to be working. I think he starts next week at a better job, higher, all that. You already know the answer.
Right.
But it's just nothing was ever invented from a place of comfort. He lost his comfort zone and got enthusiastic about life. He feels better about life now than he did 6 months ago when he started feeling mundane about this job. We're in charge of that. And when you operate every day feeling that way, there's no option but this other stuff come along. It's amazing how that works.
Yeah, it's a continuous flow, and it's like the old adage about if you don't like that bus, just wait a few minutes and another one will come along. That's literally what happens in life. If one bad thing happens, doesn't mean that you're done with good things and it's all over with. It's just wait 5 minutes. That's all.
Well, it changes. Everything goes full circle. It comes back around, and it allows you to if I would have taken my first job, and I have people that have done this, and no disrespect to them at all. It's just something that doesn't match me. There's a wonderful company to work for in Florida. It was a grocery store chain. It's a grocery store chain called Publix, and they're growing incredibly fast. They're actually finally made it to Virginia. But they literally started in my hometown, in Lakeland, Florida, which is 10 minutes from my hometown of Plant City, Florida.
Wow.
So we always grew up with Publix. And as our grocery store, it's a great store, great customer service, really good stuff, good friends that work there. I know several people that went to work in high school at Publix that are 30 years later are still working for Publix.
Wow.
Now, these people are way up in management. One of them is really high up in management. They probably have Publix, they get stock options, all this. They're probably worth millions of dollars and very well off because they have stuck with it. So they did it a great way. That's wonderful. I'm happy for them. They found one job. They worked it their entire life. They're great. And that is their world, and I'm happy for it. That doesn't match my idea of what I want. I like the millions of dollars a piece, but I don't like this is because I needed to go experience all the stuff. There's value in the experience. There's value in the ups and downs. There's value in all of that to me. The comfort zone it's a wonderful place to visit, but living there, not a lot of good often comes out of that. Where you're focused on your comfort, I don't want to go out of my comfort zone. One of the things that you've done, which I've been so happy hearing about, is you and I were talking, and when you have decided you've been the driver of LOA Today since the beginning. This is your baby. You've launched it, you played with it, and historically. You in your report, you have over-planned at times. When you started expanding,
do you think?
You
just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm being nice. I'm being really nice. I mean, you are really over-planned, but we'll talk about that later. You used to get stuck in the minutia of everything. And you just made a decision to launch this thing. And when this hits the big time, and I think 2018 is when it's going to hit. I really do. I think this is Sirius XM or some place is going to pick you up and pick up our whole crew. But
it will, because that's the only way I'm going to let it happen. I mean, I don't want to do it by myself. I want to do it with you guys. So it's going to be all of us.
Right. Yeah. And so when it picks up like that, it's the turning point will be when I quit overthinking it and just did it.
Yeah.
You jumped in it. And instead of like, well, let me study the analytics for time, that you just launched the dang thing. And it just has been, that's when it's changed. That's before we were doing a show a week and not that it wasn't beneficial. You just have instantly grown this thing. Now I think you told me it last week, we're right at 10,000 downloads, I believe was the number you threw my way.
We're over 11,000 now.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that 11,000 people have been touched by this. My son Justin randomly came downstairs last night showing me one of our broadcasts from several months ago that he somehow found. And he goes, I didn't know you did that. I go, yeah, it's our radio show. and so so the idea, Walt, that you stepped away from the controlled aspect of it all, and just when you applied the principles we're talking about, this will be the biggest turning point. And I'll remind you of that when you and I, are hanging out somewhere together. My vision has always been us broadcasting live from the bench down in Florida.
Yeah.
On the beach there. I can see that happening. And I'll remind you, it started when you took the shackles of overthinking off and you just applied the law of attraction. Turn it loose.
And it's not like I gave up on it's not like I gave up on the analytics. It's not like I gave up on looking at the minutia. It's that I gave I gave up being driven by it. I gave up being controlled by it.
Yes.
Because when you give up on that, that's when everything starts to happen. I mean, I really felt like I had to solve it all. I had to resolve all the
Right.
issues. I had to figure out how the whole thing was going to work, despite the fact that I was doing law of attraction shows that said just the opposite. But nevertheless, it shows, it shows how easily we get wrapped up into these patterns of thinking that have been around in our lives for so long. And that one had been. It had been in my life ever since I can remember. I was always trying to work out all the micro details of a solution. And what ultimately ended up happening is, particularly over the last year or two, I began to notice something that had been going on all my life, but I really started to notice it in a big way. That was, the more that I solved problems down to the tiniest minutia of detail, the more problems I got to solve down to the smallest minutia of detail. And it was getting really tiring. And I said to myself, I'm sick of this little merry-go-round I'm on. I don't want to keep getting all these problems to solve. I'm tired of them. Enough already. Forget the problems. I don't want them anymore. Please send them to somebody else. They're not my job. Ain't my job, man. Ain't not my job. I just didn't want them. I didn't want them. And when I reached that point, that's when I ran out of, what do I do? I ran out of ideas of what to do. And when I ran out of ideas of what to do, that's when I said, well, all right, I'm an LOA guy. I guess I'll just give it up to the universe because I don't know what else to do at this point. And that's how I released it.
Yes, and that's the when you figure out what has been dragging you down, and you're able to change that. That's the answer. That is the amazing piece here. You have taken your own advice and listen to yourself and say, wait a minute, here's the areas. And like you say, you're always going to have some analytics in your life. I have no analytics in my life. I probably
that's how I know that there are 11,000 plays. Otherwise, if I didn't have the analytics, I couldn't tell you that.
Exactly. So I'm excited that this transformation that eventually will lead to the LOA today to being what I have no doubt will have a national audience within 2018. We have it already, but have a large format, so to speak. I really, really believe that the turning point, when we review it, when we look at the history of the company, is that change you made, that decision to launch.
Yes.
I have a friend that he was doing a little local commercial, and this is down in South Carolina, and he was going to pay. He said, I'm saving up the money, and I'm going to hire I said, look, you got an iPhone. Take your kid and film your commercial. And he said, finally, I talked him into doing that. It is so popular because it's so real. It's just people are asking, who was your director? And he goes, my 12-year-old. It's just, they literally filmed this commercial, and they kept the bumps and bruises and the stumbles in there. Well, it's the most real commercial. It's such an amazing idea.
Right.
And he laughed. He said, he said, I was going to spend 6 months doing it. We did it and spend probably $15,000 having a professional do it. And we filmed it, and people are responding. His business, it's a little local restaurant, and the idea that everybody saw it on TV, they laugh about it. They're now doing series of commercials that the kids filming. They're making their own commercials. It's just amazing on local TV what they're doing, and he did it by changing changing the paradigm or whatever term you want to use. But instead of being stuck on the concepts that everybody else is feeding you, he just said, let's just do it this way. If it's going to work, it's going to work. And it's been amazing.
It's fantastic.
That's what everybody, all of this, right now with the new year coming up, and I'm going to be I'm excited to be able to do the show tomorrow as well. But with the next year that's right around the corner, we have limitless potential. And it's just, that's the exciting news. The happy of today, if you're listening and you're getting out of your car and you're about to go into your job and it's 9:00 and you're like, okay, there's nothing stopping you from having everything you think you want, or having the fulfillment, or having whatever you need. The only impediment to that, if you say the word for me, Walt, it's not coming out. the only impediment to that job is the blocking that you have going on. And that's what, when we do this show every day, I get charged up by doing it. It starts my day in a wonderful way. You get charged up by doing it. We get off the calls and it's like, wow, This was awesome. And if when that translates to the person getting out of their car, walking into the day, you've changed, that person has changed their own day by applying what we're talking about here. If you're going into work today, you get to decide what today is going to be. I don't care if you're doing layaways at Walmart and you think it's a horribly repetitive. You get to look at that job how you want to look at that job. And if you want to change that job, instead of feeling you're trapped in the one you're at, love the job you're at right now, and you'll attract more work like that in the future. That's, the idea that I hear this all the time, people looking for work. I do a lot of life coaching with people who are looking for jobs. I always encourage them to go get a job because it's so much easier to be employed for some reason when you have a job. It's just, I have no explanation why. But getting lost
I
is
have an
almost
explanation
like
why.
getting everything going.
I can tell you why. It's because when you have a job, you feel better. I mean, sure, there may be parts of the job you don't like, but that doesn't mean you don't feel better because you have that steady income. You do feel better when you have that steady income. So that's why it's easier to get another job that's a better paying job. Not that you can't do it if you don't have the job. It's just, it's more difficult. It's hard to make that shift. But you're absolutely right. I mean, and even if you're in a really bad place mentally speaking and emotionally speaking, and you just can't find a way to say that my current job situation is good, even though it really is that you're still employed. If you can't find a way to say that, okay, then how about finding a way to say other aspects of what's going on in your life that are good? Start there. Start with the ones that you can easily identify. Because you do that for a while, and pretty soon you're going to find yourself in that spot where, now I can start saying that the job is good. I can see good aspects to the job. You have to build up to it sometimes, but you can still get there. I just wanted to throw that bit in.
Absolutely. Yes, and that's the exciting, that's the happy news of today, is we get to choose. We think we're powerless over so many things, and we are. But the stuff that we have power over is all that really matters. Stuff will happen. Our response to it is what the point is, how we respond to it. And it's such a freeing aspect of our life that most people get stuck. I know people live their entire lives and never understand that.
Yeah. Well, that's going to start shifting because I agree with you. I think this is going to be, 2018 is going to be our year. I really believe it as well. And all of the co-hosts have been telling me that. I mean, you guys have all been building me up on this one because I've lived with LOA today since the beginning, And so when you're part of it, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. You guys have been the ones convincing me that we're getting there. And that actually makes it a whole lot better. So thank you for that.
Well, you and I have been doing this, for a while together, and you've been doing it the whole time. And I will tell you, it's always felt good. And mentally, I always said, I enjoy doing it with you. It boosts me. But I promise you, Walt, it feels different. This feels pre-IOP kind of, and this, what is it? IPO, not IOP is intake. Different thing. IPO. It feels like we're launching IOP is intensive outpatient program. It's hard to change all your letters. But this is exciting. It feels different to me. And I know we're running out of time. I just looked at the clock. I wish, we could easily do 2 hours of drive time.
Oh, yeah.
I promise.
There's no doubt we could. And it's always been the case with us, right? We always feel like, oh, God, how could the show be over? We have so much more to say. This is yet another example of it.
The great news of this, Walt, is we are going to be on together tomorrow morning.
That's true. Yeah. This is a great week because you and I get to do 2 shows this week because Cindy's taking the week off, and that just, that makes my week. So thank you very much. Joel, it's been a pleasure as usual, and I can say that with every degree of honesty because it really is a pleasure.
It is, Walt, and I thank you for the opportunity. I love our audience, and I 2018 is our year, and I mean all of us. This is going to be an amazing upcoming year.
So you don't want to miss an episode. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.